Hey everyone, Dex here. Want to go over some priority stats and just generally talk about how stats work on each class here in Destiny 2. Just want to say thank you guys very much for the recent support on all the YouTube videos, and also if you guys have come down and check us out when we're live on twitch.tv/Dexival. So let's start with mobility. So on a hunter, mobility is the primary stat for the class cooldown. So if you want to be able to dodge more often, you're gonna want to be speccing as much as you can into mobility. You can see the tiers as they go up give you a much more reduction in your class cooldown. Now there is ways to supplement your class cooldown, and we're going to cover a little bit of those as we go. But in general, for hunter, your class ability, your dodge, is tied to mobility. Now the next stat is resilience. So resilience, a little bit strange. So it does give you more health, and also, you know, kind of just makes it so you can tank more rounds in PvE and PvP. Now it's not as insane as you might think. Having a maximum of a tier 10 on this doesn't give you as much as you might think. It is okay, but I don't necessarily spec too much into it. If I'm playing PvP and I'm going to get outshot and outplayed, I'm probably just going to die from it. So recovery. So recovery is how fast you gain health back. This one for PvP especially is extremely good. So I tend to spec quite a bit into this, and we'll see later with some of the other classes where I spec quite heavily into it. But on the hunter, I try to get as close to 100 as I can. Now each tier doesn't give you partial, so you need to have a full tier for it to count. So right now this is tier 9. So this recovery means I'm going to get my health back quite quickly and my overshield quite quickly. So speccing into recovery for PvP is actually quite beneficial. Now, discipline. Discipline is your grenade cooldown. Now, I don't necessarily spec too much into it, but I do try to have a little bit in there. This just because I was going for as high as I could in the main priority stats. I don't have quite high discipline, but if you want to be able to throw your grenades more often, you could spec this a little bit higher and get faster cooldown. Intellect. So intellect across all classes. So these bottom three are universal across all classes. Intellect here does reduce your super energy. So how long it takes for your super to charge. And again, you can supplement this with a few different methods. But in general, if you want your super faster, spec more into intellect. The last one here is strength. So strength is your melee ability cooldown. Again, with this, I would actually, if I could have switched it, I would have put even less into strength because it's not required on this build I'm using on a hunter. I would probably put, if it was possible changing the armor out, I would put all of this strength into the grenade cooldown, the discipline stat. So looking at the subclass here, so you can see when I dodge near an enemy, I get my melee back. So this is why I don't really matter about getting as much strength energy as I can, because I can just dodge near an enemy and get my melee back. So the cooldown for that is basically null and void, and I get 2 of these. So if I use a double dodge, I get both my melees back pretty much instantly. Now on top of that, if you watched some of the previous videos, you'll know that there is some mods you can use on your gauntlets that are going to help you get your dodge energy back faster by landing melee hits. So with this, you can see dodging slows enemies. So using the 6 Coyote for the double dodge, getting that melee energy back as well. You can check out here intellect. I have quite high, but I'm also using Dynamo. So if I am strictly trying to dodge near enemies to slow them and get melees back, I'm also going to get super energy back just for dodging near them. So Dynamo is kind of a stat that you can, or a mod that you can actually use to increase your cooldown significantly. In addition to that, like I said earlier, we did talk about these mods. If you didn't look at it, go watch the previous video on this. Basically, every time you land a melee, whether it's charged or uncharged, and only one, not back to back, just one at a time, you're going to get ability energy back. And then again with the grenade energy back. So you can see here, defeating slowed or frozen enemies when we're using stasis is going to grant us class ability energy as well. So just by defeating them if they're slowed in a grenade or by the melees, you're going to get energy. In addition to that, this aspect here, or sorry, this fragment here, increases the duration of the slow or frozen targets. On top of that, we are using distribution and perpetuation. So dodging near enemies is going to get class ability cooldown. So it's going to cool down everything. Just using my class ability is going to cool stuff down with perpetuation. But in addition to that, with distribution, if I dodge near enemies, I'm also going to be getting more cooldown on top of that. So you can see the synergy for this class and the stasis subclass, just dodging near stuff, trying to get cooldowns as fast as possible. So again, the priority stats that I tend to go with for Hunter, strictly for PvP, if I'm going to talk about that in particular, is going to be mobility, recovery, and intellect. Those are the 3 stats I tend to try and spec into as high as possible. You can supplement some of those stats with some of the mods. You just have to keep an eye on which ones are available. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer over and we are going to check out the Titan. So here we are on the Titan. Stats look a little bit different here. So first off, mobility is not actually tied to our class ability. That is only for Hunter. So on mobility, it's just going to increase your movement speed and your jump height. Where you're going to be getting your class ability cooldown now on a Titan only is your resilience. So the higher resilience stat you have, the faster you can throw up your towering barricades. Now, towering barricades are very unused in PvP. People should be using them more. And it's very surprising when you go up against somebody that knows how to use a barricade well, but also knows how to chain it with a sight and rampart. So that exotic allows you to shoot through barricades. They have less health, very much less health, but to be honest, being able to shoot through barricades surprises a lot of people and they forget it's a thing in the game. So using your Titan class ability more often is beneficial because you can use it for cover, you can get reses in PvP, PvE, all sorts of things. So speccing into high resilience on this is a very good option. Now keep that in mind, a lot of Titans spec high resilience. So if you are shooting and having a fight with a Titan, keep in mind they're going to be a little bit more tanky than what you might run up against with a Hunter or a Warlock. So if it might take you one extra shot to put them down, maybe consider that when you're fighting a Titan. So like I said, this is different than the Hunter. Hunter is mobility for class stat, and Titan is resilience. Again, recovery, same thing as the Hunter. It is how fast I get my health back and my overshield back. So speccing into that on the Titan is actually quite beneficial. Again, discipline is our grenade cooldown on the Titan. This, like I said, the bottom 3 don't really change between any of the characters. They basically do the exact same thing. No real specific stats tied to discipline, intellect, and strength. Intellect, again, I want my super as quickly as possible during games, especially for PvP. So I spec quite high into intellect, trying to get those supers, and potentially during stuff like Control or Iron Banner, getting multiple supers per game. And then Titan with strength, even though I'm a melee boy, being a Titan, I still don't spec very high into strength. I don't see the potential in it. The stasis melee, I actually do enjoy using as a dodge of sorts to try and get out of bad situations and also to get through areas quickly. but I haven't really found the use of speccing extremely high into that stat. I might play around with some builds just to see if I can get the melee back even faster, but it's actually quite slow even on the regens, so I don't tend to spec very fast into them. So checking out the subclass here. So with this, we have the slide. So I really like the Titan slide. It's very long. It's very quick, so you can actually get through areas very fast. I really like it. If you guys are using it, try it with like a run and gun mentality where you're sliding through doorways and then throwing up your barricade, or even sliding through and then meleeing through a different door. It's quite fun. With this, I want my slows to last a little bit longer. So again, we're using, you know, the grenades that'll lock people in place. We're also using, if we do defeat somebody that's slow, we're going to get class ability. So again, we're slowing down, bringing that regen up on our class ability to throw up more walls more quickly. And then here, we're increasing our grenade cooldown by being able to shatter. So if we see anything on the ground, any stasis crystals, we're going to slide through them. And if we actually get any hits, or if we just shatter the crystals, we're going to get grenade energy back. So on the Titan, here's the sight and ramparts. So remember, you can shoot through towering barricades. Again, on this, I'm using bolstering detonation because I'm not using the melee very much on this character as an offensive melee. It's more of a defensive situation. I do use it every now and then offensively. If I know I'm going to kill somebody with it, I'm going to use it. But any grenade hits I get on people, that's where I want to get my class ability energy from. Because the melee, like I said, I don't use as a traditional melee per se. So you can see we are using Dynamo, though this isn't as effective as the Hunter because you're not really dodging near enemies. You're placing your barrier down, but I have used the barrier to slide into a room, place a barrier down to block people, so that will give me super energy. Here you go, here's the bolstering detonation. And again, distribution and perpetuation on the class item. And like I said, for these ones, you're not sliding in and dropping your barricade all the time right in front of enemies close enough to get the cooldown, but if they are near a wall and you pop it, you will get some of that. So using them when your minimap lights up is a good idea. So priority stats for me, normally on my Titan, is going to be my resilience stat to get walls as much as possible, especially when I'm running Titans. A recovery to get the health back, very much so. I'm going to be using as much of that as possible, and my intellect stat to get the supers. So for Titan, those would be the three that I usually focus in, especially on this build in particular. All right, let's check out the Warlock. So in the Warlock, you'll see the stats again a little bit different here. Mobility quite low. Even now, this is probably still too much mobility for my Warlock class, but this is what I've got with the build that I'm currently using. Then this is just the jump height and the movement speed. For PvP, I don't like being able to jump super high because I don't want to get shot in the head by a sniper rifle. Resilience quite low, similar to my Hunter. I don't spec too much into resilience when doing PvP because I'm going to get outgunned. I'm probably going to get outgunned as well, so I'm just going to leave that pretty low. Personal preference though. Now, recovery. So on the Warlock class, recovery is how you're going to get your rifts, your class abilities back. So as you've been able to see so far through all of these, it's gone mobility for Hunter, resilience for Titan, and recovery for the Warlock. The higher you spec into this, the faster you're going to be able to drop your rifts on the ground for healing or bonus damage. Now with this build I'm using right now, I would be personally using the empowering rift because there's a way to synergize with the exotic chest piece to get my grenades back instantly. And in addition to that, if I get kills with the grenade, I'm getting my rifts back instantly. So speccing into this is going to be able to, if I didn't get a kill, I can then use my ability faster just off of its base stats. Discipline, I spec a little bit higher into this for sure when it comes to the Warlock because I want the grenades back with this build. So if I don't get a kill and I'm not getting any of the synergy from the exotic chest piece, I need to get those grenades back a little bit quicker. So I spec into discipline as well on this build. And again, intellect. Intellect, intellect, intellect. Getting my super as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Now, melee on a Warlock is a bit of a thing. You can spec much higher into the melees, especially on something like Top Tree Dawnblade, where you have Celestial Fire, or the new Stasis subclass, where you can launch your little Freezy boys at them. But since I am using Middle Tree Dawnblade, so Well of Radius, sorry, don't necessarily need to have the melee ability because it is a close quarters melee with that. We're using fusion grenades that attach to enemies. And on top of that, the Empowering Rift, like I was saying. Now, what that does is it synergizes with Starfire Protocol. So I get an additional fusion grenade, so 2 grenades, and then they recharge instantly on empowered weapon damage. That's the big word there, empowered. So as long as you have a bonus, so whether I've meleeed something or have basically bonus damage going on my weapon, I'm going to get grenades back. On top of that, if I get a fusion grenade kill, I get full rift energy. So hence the synergy there of getting a kill, getting a grenade, then getting a kill again with more rifts. So on top of that, I'm using Traveler's Chosen. So if I get any kills at all, I can consume the stack and get all of my ability energies back. So I really like using this with this build because if I do happen to get into a situation where I need energy, I can potentially have it just by getting a sidearm kill. On top of that, getting a kill while in the rift will give me energy there as well as stacks on the hand cannon. Putting Dynamo on here as well, just in case we happen to be near enemies when we drop the rift, so we get some free energy, but not necessarily a go-to strat for that. You'll notice here on the gauntlets, I do not have either of the mods on. It's because the melee is too close quarters, so there's no real point to using that one. On top of that, the synergy of the chest piece doesn't require me needing to use the grenades. And yes, again, we are using Perpetuation and Distribution. So, priority stats for the Warlock. Recovery, Discipline, Intellect on this build in particular, just so we can get all of those regens back as we use it. That's it for this video, guys. If you have enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for future content. You can come watch us live when we're on twitch.tv/Dexivil. Hopefully you guys found some useful information in this stat guide, and we'll see you in the next one.